Today we're going to be talking about the brand new buffed Rescue Ace deck using the brand new cards Emergency as well as Rescue Ace Preventer. Emergency is a quick play spell card that will allow you to special summon a Rescue Ace monster from your deck in defense position and then tribute a Rescue Ace monster from your hand or field. This essentially allows you to special summon any Rescue Ace you want from your deck, almost certainly your Hydrant in most turn 1 situations, but you can also summon the likes of your Turbulence or even your other new card, the Preventer, should the circumstances allow you. This is an incredibly versatile card that you're going to use in a variety of different situations. Number one, of course, in a one-card combo that I'm going to show you using the now buffed Rescue Ace Airlifter, but it is also a very useful card to dodge interruption from your opponent, such as Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, and other targeting disruption. In general, the card can be used to dodge all of that disruption while generating you advantage and not causing you to lose momentum overall in the turn. And on the topic of momentum, Rescue Ace Preventer is here to prevent your opponent from generating any momentum of their own, as once per turn, as a quick effect, he can flip any monster your opponent controls face down. He can be special summoned from hand by banishing any Rescue Ace card from your graveyard, and when this man himself is sent to the graveyard, he'll replace himself by special summoning a banished Rescue Ace monster, making him not only a powerful form of disruption and one of your primary quote-unquote boss monsters, but also a recursive card that you're going to utilize as part of your primary combo. And what is this combo I keep referring to? Well, it is a brand new one-card combo utilizing your Rescue Ace Airlifter as your primary starter card. We now have 3 copies of this, as well as the 1 copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Prior to the release of these cards, Rescue Ace Airlifter was a decent card, but it was in no stretch of the imagination a one-card starter for this deck. That simply did not exist. The closest thing this deck had to a one-card starter was Bellstar, and that's not even a Rescue Ace card. So Rescue Ace Airlifter now being in a position to where it can maintain, manage, and instigate an incredibly powerful combo by itself means, number one, not only has the ceiling of your deck gone up quite dramatically, but that also doesn't change the fact that you still have the Bellstar cards, which can begin their own series of shenanigans and one-card combos as well. Overall, the consistency of the deck has jumped up so massively, as has the ceiling of the deck, that it's hardly comparable to its pre-buffed alternative. I was never really a fan of Rescue Ace before. I never disliked the deck, but it was definitely not one of my favorites. But after playing this deck on stream, and after going basically undefeated using it, I think we were around 9-2 in our initial stretch of using this deck, I have definitely warmed up to the deck quite significantly. I will be using this a lot going forward, and I do have several other versions of the deck I will be uploading. So if you want to catch those uploads as well, you can make sure to subscribe to catch things as they come out as often as we can get them out. And like this video if you want to help me get this out to as many people as possible. We're going to start this video off by going into a one-card combo using our Airlifter, and I'm going to show you the ceiling and the consistency that this deck has now acquired with these brand new cards. Alright, now this hand is actually even better than what I'm going to demonstrate through this combo, but I do want to get you as close to the real McCoy as possible. So we're going to ignore all of the cards in his hand other than the Rescue Ace Airlifter himself. Now, we will at some point in this combo need to search for Rescue Ace Turbulence. I do only run the 1 copy, so I'm just going to search for an Impulse instead, but this card is searchable. Let me just get into the combo and I'll show you what I mean. So we are going to start off nice and easy by normal summoning our Rescue Ace Airlifter. Now, here in the combo, we're just going to simply search our deck for Emergency. Now, if you have Emergency in hand, of course, there's no need for you to do that, and you can search for an alternative card. Not only that, if your opponent attempts to use Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler to negate your Airlifter's search, not only A, do you not really need the search to go through, but B, you can protect it by using the quick play Emergency you already had in hand. But let's pretend for a moment that we don't have one in hand, and we're going to add this from deck to hand. Now we're going to activate the quick play spell card Emergency. We're going to special summon Rescue Ace Hydrant directly from deck to field, tributing off the Airlifter that we already had. Remember, we're ignoring every other card in our hand. So now we're going to go for Rescue Ace Hydrant. This will activate. This is normally where you would search for Rescue Ace Turbulence. Pretend we added Turbulence to our hand. Right? I'm sure you can use your imagination. Now we're going to go for Rescue Ace Turbulence, summoning it out from the hand to the field by banishing the Airlifter and the Emergency that we sent there earlier. So out it comes. Perfect. Now we're going to set 4 of our Rescue Ace cards into the back row from the deck. Now you may, if you've watched other people's combo tutorials, be looking at this and thinking to yourself, well, we don't have Emergency in deck, so you're setting 4 cards. How could it possibly be the full combo if you don't have Emergency to set onto your field? And you don't actually use Emergency in this version of the combo. You don't set that off of Turbulence. You set these 4 cards, the original 4. And there's a reason for that. We're going to be using Alert here. Alert can be activated on the turn it's set thanks to the effect of Rescue Ace Hydrant, and we will be grabbing Rescue Ace Preventer from our deck to our hand. Now, the order of this does matter somewhat, not overly so, but it does matter that you get this part right. And now you're going to use your Turbulence and your Hydrant to go into a Link 2 monster. Whatever one strikes your fancy, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use Hita just for example, but you can use any one of them. Hita is good, especially if you've already suffered an Ash Blossom during that turn. You can extend even further, but let's assume for a second that you haven't. We've just got Hita. Now we're going to use the Rescue Ace Preventer. We're going to banish the Rescue Ace Hydrant from my graveyard. I'm going to summon Preventer out to the field. Now, using the Preventer and the Hita, I'm going to go into the Promethean Princess. That's going to allow a few things to happen here, basically, as a consequence of that summon. Number one, first and foremost, our Preventer is going to special summon back our banished Hydrant. We banished the Hydrant on purpose, which is why the ordering of this did matter somewhat. You do need to banish the Hydrant so you can resummon it. Now, our Promethean Princess is going to bring back any fire monster from our graveyard. It doesn't matter which. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to use your newly summoned monster and your Promethean Princess to go into another Link monster. You can either make it the Ambler Wheel if you don't have any further extension, or if you do have maybe some more cards in your hand you want to extend with, you can go into the likes of a Sunlight Wolf to try and end on an even better board. But again, 1 card combo, we're going to end with the Ambler Wheel. So what exactly does this field do? Well, going into your opponent's turn, you're going to see the real power of this board. During the beginning of our opponent's turn, we're going to turn our toggle on and we're going to bring back, using Rescue on our field, bringing back the Preventer from our graveyard. That means what we have on board is effectively, I'm going to wait until our opponent makes a play so I can pause it, essentially. So what we have is Contain. Contain is a trap card that will allow you to target an effect monster your opponent controls. You will negate its effect, prevent it from attacking, and if you control Rescue Ace Hydrant, which is why it's so important we have this card, that card also cannot be used as material for an extra deck summon during that turn. No Link summoning, Fusion summoning, Synchro summoning, or Exceed summoning. That is absolutely huge. That means if you use this card on the likes of a Snake Eye Ash, for example, not only is their Ash negated and can't attack, they also can't simply link it off to try and bring it back later off of an Oak. They're going to have a much more difficult time getting it off of the field. So Contain is absolutely brutal. You then, of course, have the other trap card, Extinguish, which is similarly powerful. You will target an effect monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you control Hydrant, the effects of that destroyed monster and all other monsters of that monster's name cannot be activated that turn. So if you see, for example, a Kashtira Unicorn, which came up on our stream, the moment they summon that Unicorn, you can hit it with Extinguish, which will not only prevent them from, it'll pop their monster, of course, and get it off the field, but it'll also prevent them from activating the effect of another Unicorn if they manage to get access to another one in their hand somehow. So Extinguish, equally incredibly powerful. You have Preventer, which will, on a quick play basis, be able to target a card your opponent controls and flip that face down. Book of Moon in this format is absolutely insane because it prevents your opponent from using that monster, not only its on-field ignition speed effects, but will also prevent it from being used as material for a Link, Synchro, or Exceed summon. So it becomes very difficult for your opponent to use it for anything. Also, all of the Diabellstar cards all require you to send face-up cards to the graveyard. So the likes of Oak, Ash, Diabellstar, Original Sinful Spoils, all of those cards can only pitch face-up cards to the graveyard for their effects, so you're reducing the versatility of your opponent's board. And lastly, we have the Promethean Princess. Promethean Princess, when your opponent special summons a monster, this card will activate in your graveyard, to target a fire monster you control, which is why we have the Ambler Wheel, as well as the monster that your opponent just special summoned. It will destroy both and special summon itself back to the field. So that marks 4 total interruptions off of a 1-card combo, which has an incredible amount of follow-up, because not only does your Hydrant have the ability to search for cards, your trap cards can be recycled off of your field spell, your Promethean Princess can also revive cards back, your Ambler Whale is going to special summon a Link monster back from the graveyard, so whatever Link monster you summoned before comes back. The amount of versatility that you get off of this particular combo is quite simply ludicrous. And that is 1 card. That's ignoring the fact that you have 4 other entire cards in your hand. Those could be Diabellstar extenders, those could be hand traps, those could be Maxi like they are in this case. So again, it is one of those situations where a powerful 1-card combo backed up by appropriate extenders, back row, hand traps is simply very difficult to deal with. What we're going to witness here now is one duel where we went especially off the handles here. So we're going to grab our Airlifter from our deck. We're going to start our combo as we do. Again, in this circumstance, we're not too worried about doing the whole 1-card combo. We have other cards in hand and we're not afraid to use them. We're going to go Hydrant, then grabbing us Preventer. Since we already have Turbulence, we're going to banish 2 cards off of our graveyard for our Turbulence summon here. Turbulence going to stack our field with up to 4 back row cards. Going to play Contain, Extinguish, Alert, and finally then Rescue. So now we're going to shuffle those cards up nice and quick. We're going to go Rescue is HQ. Hydra then going to activate to allow us to use our Alert engrave. We're going to send as well our other spell to the graveyard for our Diabellstar. Now, the reason we're sending our spell to grave is because of our field spell. This allows us to return return 4 Rescue Ace cards from our graveyard or our banished pile back to the deck to draw 1. So because we weren't really planning on using this other spell card, we might as well send it to grave so we can shuffle it back and draw an extra card. We're going to go for our Preventer now, banishing a card to summon itself. That means that we're getting the maximum amount of value possible out of our field spell. We're going to shuffle back 4 cards, drawing 1. We're now going to use our additional normal summon from our field spell, summoning an Airlifter, sending it to grave for our Poplar. Now we're going to link summon into Hita. Poplar then going to play itself into the back row. Really no purpose behind that, honestly. We're going to go Seeker, adding our Diabellstar back to hand, just so we can get it engraved to use its secondary effect to banish itself, shuffling Sinful Spoils back into the deck to draw 1. We draw the Rescue. We're going to go Promethean Princess here. Princess going to activate to bring a card back from the grave. Back comes our Turbulence. Now we're going to link again into the Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, linking 1 into Linkaribo underneath it. That's going to trigger the Sunlight Wolf to add our Airlifter back to hand for follow-up. Now we're going to link summon again into Deco Talker Heat Soul, which will pay 1,000 life points to allow us to draw a card, drawing into our Emergency, setting 2 and passing to our opponent. Going to draw an extra card off a Heat Soul here. There's an extra Hydrant for us should we need it. We're going to go Mythical Institution then, meeting that with Rescue, summoning Hydrant back from our graveyard. Hydrant is an important one to have on field because it does enable the full power of your back row cards. We're going to go Magician Souls then from our opponent, sending the Illusion of Chaos to grave. We're going to flip that shit face down right away to stop it from drawing extra cards. They're going to go for Spell Power Mastery. We're going to Ash Blossom that. We really don't need our man searching for any extra cards. And Endymion can be rather dangerous if they get the ball rolling into the void. Going to draw them 1 extra card, as will Upstart Goblin, desperately digging for something to out our board, but unfortunately they simply aren't able to find it, and we take an easy win. So that shows off some of the inherent synergy between both sides of the deck, the Diabellstar cards and the Rescue Ace cards. As much as it's important to know your 1-card combos and know how different cards can chain together in a situation where you're limited in terms of what cards you have available to you, it is also equally important to make sure you're practicing with the deck and you understand many of the relationships between different cards and the ways in which you can abuse them, and that can only be found by practice. You can't learn that from a video. But anyways, we're going to get in and we're going to play 1 game live in the Diamond rank. Already getting into our live game then, losing a coin toss unfortunately, so that does mean we're almost certainly going second. Yep, that's fine. Luckily our deck does have quite a number of ways of playing through interruption. The Diabellstar cards definitely help a lot with that. Bonfire as well does help to an extent because it gives us an alternative card to use. A couple of hand traps, a couple of really solid starters here. Emergency will be, I'll feel a lot better about using Emergency if I draw any Rescue Ace card. Until then, I feel a little bit dicey about this card in hand. But we'll see. They're going to go Kashtira Ogre here, searching their deck for a Kashtira Trap card, grabbing Preparations. Wouldn't take a genius to figure that one out. Alright, our opponent's going to normal summon Ash Blossom here. I can only imagine their plan is to summon Baron de Fleur. They either don't have access to the likes of Theosis, or potentially they want to do this first. Maybe they have Kashtira Birth in hand, or maybe they just value having the Baron de Fleur over potentially having some sort of Kashtira setup. All of which are equally valid explanations. That, however, is not a very valid board. So we're going to draw, and hopefully we should be able to set this guy down pretty nice and easily. So they do have Kashtira Preparations, but they don't have the... So the Ogre is in the graveyard. Kashtira Preparations can special summon a monster from the hand or from the banish pile, not from the graveyard. So as long as it's there, it's not a concern. He could still have a monster in his hand, but that's simply a chance we're going to have to take. We're going to go Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils to search our deck for Diabellstar, which will be allowed through. That was a mistake. I mean, was it? I don't really know what single card he negates here to get something out of us. I am going to start with Airlifter, I guess. Airlifter's going to activate, searching our deck for a spell card. This is a good Baron negate if you think that I don't have Emergency. That is an Ash Blossom. Diabellstar the Black Witch. I'm going to send Effect Veiler from my hand to the graveyard. I'm going to special summon Diabellstar. Diabellstar then going to activate, going to search my deck for the original Sinful Spoils, placing it face down onto my field, which will resolve. Interesting. We are contending with this Baron negate here. We're going to go original Sinful Spoils, Snake Eyes. We're going to send Diabellstar the Black Witch to the graveyard. We're going to summon out a level 1 fire monster. That's going to be our Rescue Ace Hydrant. Our opponent allowing these plays to go through. Very interesting approach from our opponent here. I'm going to draw myself an extra card here. It might help give us the gas we need to get through this Baron. I'm pretty confident we can simply outplay this thing at this stage. I'm not too worried about it. But, you know, we shall see, I guess. Called by the Grave does reduce a lot of pressure off of me here. We're going to go Rescue Ace Hydrant. Again, not a terrible Baron negate, I'm not going to lie. Kashtira Preparations does not scare me. Kashtira Preparations, he's going to summon a Kashtira monster from his hand. Interesting. So that's one less card in hand, I suppose, that we don't know of. Oh, it's a Tillaman Kashtira. That card is not threatening at all. I'm a-okay with that. Alright, I'm going to grab Rescue Ace. We could grab Turbulence, or we could grab Preventer. Preventer will force the Baron. In fact, I will grab the Preventer, yes. Now, the Preventer does need another Rescue Ace monster on your field in order to use its effect. So I'm going to activate Airlifter, which is going to tribute itself in response to the Kashtira Tillaman card, and it's going to summon out Preventer from my hand. Special summoning our Preventer. He will mill, what is this, 2 cards? Oh, he mills 3 cards from the top of my... He milled my one and only Rescue Ace Turbulence. That is a problem. I'm going to activate Rescue Ace Preventer to attempt to flip this Baron de Fleur face down. That is met with a negate. That much I could have told you. Now we're going to go for Emergency. We're going to tag out our Rescue Ace Preventer, special summoning another monster in its place. I really would have liked for that monster to be Turbulence, but that was a very unfortunate milling of 3 cards. Could have milled any other 3 cards, but nope, it had to be those. Alrighty. Gonna tribute off that Preventer, since it's gonna get destroyed anyways, we might as well tribute it. Alrighty, well now we do at the very least have a little bit more freedom. We're gonna be able to use our 2 Rescue Ace monsters to go into Hita. Luckily our opponent has used Ash Blossom against us this time, so we are free to grab a fire monster from his graveyard and summon it to our field. And this is where the adaptability of the deck comes in quite a lot, because the Promethean Princess is another really powerful option. We do, of course, have the ability to use Selene here, which will not have enough spell counters to summon a spellcaster. I'm glad I double checked that. That's not often a problem, but when it is, it is. I guess I could have just used a spell of my own to top the counter off, but honestly, it likely wouldn't have been the ideal play anyways. This is going to bring back the Turbulence from the graveyard, so even though our opponent did manage to mill it, it's not going to stop us from playing it. Because now we're simply going to go for Turbulence's effect now to play 4 cards into our back row, which is just insane. Something else entirely. This card is wild. Alright, we play 2 traps. We're also going to play 2 spells. And we'll set another card too. We have how many copies of Hydrant in our graveyard? Just the 1. So depending upon how bold we wish to be here, we can really get this show on the road, huh? And I think I will. We're going to go for 1 for 1. We're nothing if not bold. We're going to drop Ash Blossom to our graveyard. We're going to special summon a monster from our deck. I'm going to special summon Rescue Ace Hydrant. I'm going to summon this card in defense. The reason we're doing that is because now we can utilize one of our back row cards. And the card we're going to utilize, we're going to use Rescue. So Hydrant basically allows you to activate a face down card that was set during that turn by a card effect. So because all of these cards were set by card effect, I can use one of them, and I'm going to use it to bring back my Preventer. My Preventer is a very powerful card. Now that Baron does have an awful lot of attack points, but it's not exactly an insurmountable number, so all we need to do is be careful and we can beat it. So we're going to use these 2 now. We're going to get rid of our Hydrant and our Princess. We're going to go into the Ambler Wheel. Going into the battle phase, we're going to swing in to the Baron with our Ambler Wheel. That will destroy both. That should trigger, yes, the Ambler Wheel. Definitely. To bring back Hita, the Fire Charmer. Now we're going to use our Turbulence. We're going to take out this Telements Kashtira card. And we're simply going to try dealing as much damage as we possibly can. 28 to the face, as well as 1850. So not exactly game over just yet, but we have essentially taken all of our opponent's momentum away from them and reclaimed control over the current board state. So I'm fairly confident that this game is not going to go well for our opponent, considering the fact that we have quite a number of interruptions and even some follow-up. Our opponent's they've got Harpy's Feather Duster. That is simply unreal. Alright, I guess we're going to do this. That's simply unreal. Honestly, I'm blown away. That yup, that happened. Alright, we're going to add a Rescue Ace Hydrant back to our hand. He's going to wipe out our back row, unfortunately. That will, however, trigger our Turbulence to pop his Kashtira preparations. So he has one last card to play with, placing a card face down and passing his turn back to us. I highly doubt that that one face down will be enough to stop us. Swinging Turbulence in. Infinite Impermanence. I didn't think so. Bye-bye. And there you have it. Another example of the deck working just fine. Let's get one more look at that list. And there you have it. So this is our list. Now, this does look slightly different to what we played on the live stream, and I am going to briefly explain what exactly it is we have changed. Number one, first and foremost, we identified a problem during the live stream and during my playtesting immediately afterwards that the deck had a very poor starter to brick ratio. We were playing 3 copies of Impulse, 2 copies of Preventer, 2 copies of Turbulence. We were playing Fire Engine. All of these cards, which by themselves did nothing, and their reward when played through correct means was not nearly significant enough to justify the additional cards. So we cut down Impulse to 1 copy. This card is lucky being included at all in the deck, honestly. I could totally cut this from the list entirely and I would not miss it. However, it is a warrior, its effect is decent, and it is searchable off of Rhoda, so I think it's okay to keep it in at 1. We have Airlifter a 3 still, of course. We reduced our Preventer and Turbulence counts to 1 each, while on very, very rare occasions you may miss having a second copy. Your deck plays more than enough ways to bring cards back from your graveyard and recycle them. Honestly, you're not going to miss them very much. Between the field spell, between using Rescue, between the double Promethean Princesses, there's quite a lot of ways to bring cards back from the graveyard, so having your big bads in the grave really isn't that big of a deal because you can bring them right back. We did slightly alter our Snake Eye / Diabellstar lineup as well. I did reduce the Poplar to 1 and reduce the corresponding Bonfire to 2, so we do see these cards less often. However, I do find that has had a beneficial impact on consistency. Seeing Poplar in hand is rather detrimental. However, seeing Bonfire in hand, being able to search for it is very good. If you wanted to run a third copy of Bonfire, you definitely could. I cut it down to 2 in order to save space in the deck for other cards, because another issue we had was the fact we weren't running nearly enough hand traps. And lastly, Diabellstar is another card you could definitely run at 3 if you don't mind running more copies. More cards in your deck, and a lot of people do like running this particular deck at a higher deck count. You could definitely increase the number of Diabellstar and Bonfire that you're running in your deck. They will not negatively impact your consistency. I merely wanted to get the deck as close to 40 cards as I possibly could in order to more reliably see my answers to Max C, which I was able to do successfully without harming the consistency of the deck in any significant way. The deck plays the absolute minimum amount of bricks, which is still more than what you would like, considering, you know, your 4 spells and traps basically do nothing on their own. Emergency is useful 90% of the time, but there is that 10% chance of you not having another Rescue card to pair it off with. Poplar is not exactly the greatest card to see in hand. Rescue Ace Impulse is not a very good card to see in hand. We of course have Preventer and Turbulence, which by themselves don't do very much. So there is quite a number of cards that basically don't do anything by themselves. However, we do run enough cards in the deck that run the show solo to justify playing the bricks that we're playing. So that explains the current ratios. There's a lot of things you can do with this deck, and I do plan on playing different versions of it, especially ones that play around with the extra deck very differently. There are quite a lot of versions of this deck out there, and I do plan on testing out quite a number of, at the very least, the top crop versions. But that's our first list. If you got any feedback you want to leave, of course you can leave it down below, or hop into our Discord to leave any questions there. Make sure you're subscribed to catch more videos as they're coming out, as often as we can pump them out, and like this video if you actually enjoyed watching. But I'll not take up any more of your time tonight. I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.